Tony Ferguson didn't lose everything in a single night. He lost it slowly, quietly, while preparing for a moment that refused to happen. For years, his career revolved around one name. Khabib Nurmagomedov wasn't just an opponent. He became the missing piece that defined Tony's prime. 12 consecutive victories built something dangerous around him. Not just momentum, expectation, a growing certainty that destiny was approaching. He cut opponents open with elbows that felt surgical. He drowned them in pace that never seemed to fade. He smiled through blood as if suffering validated identity. Every win tightened the narrative. The division whispered about inevitability. The collision felt historic before it ever happened. Then the fight was announced and canceled, announced again and canceled again. Injuries intervened, weight cuts collapsed, a global pandemic froze the world. Each cancellation increased tension instead of offering closure. Most fighters would adjust course. Tony refused. Training camps became rituals of obsession, endless wrestling rounds. Cardio pushed beyond reason. Sparring wars that mirrored a storm he never faced. His body absorbed damage preparing for one war. Meanwhile, the division evolved. Younger fighters sharpened, styles modernized. Tony stayed locked in anticipation. Waiting feels like discipline, but in combat sports, waiting is erosion, and erosion never asks for permission. While he waited, he kept winning. That's what makes the story dangerous, because nothing looked broken. 12 straight victories, not cautious decisions, violent statements. Rafael dos Anjos couldn't control him, Kevin Lee couldn't finish him, Anthony Pettis couldn't outlast him. Even when injured, Tony accelerated. Even when bleeding, he advanced. Pain didn't slow him, it confirmed him. An interim belt wrapped around his waist, but it felt temporary. Proof of excellence, not proof of completion. The undisputed title still belonged to someone else. And that absence grew heavier with every win. He was the most feared contender in the division, yet never fully secure, because dominance without resolution is unstable. While other fighters built alliances and protected positioning, Tony isolated. His camps grew harsher, his methods stranger, his preparation narrower. Everything centered on one future collision. The division evolved in real time. Striking sharpened, defensive wrestling improved, game plans became disciplined. Tony kept sharpening the same blade. He trusted pace. He trusted pressure. He trusted that inevitability rewards persistence. But dominance is not permanence. It's a window. And while Tony defended his momentum inside the cage, time quietly moved outside of it. He was winning, but he was not advancing, and that difference would eventually matter. El Cucuy was never just branding. It became armor. Tony didn't behave like other contenders. He didn't speak like them. He didn't train like them. He hung upside down backstage. He rolled baseballs along his shins to strengthen nerves. He shadowboxed in empty rooms long after cameras left. Fans called it genius. Opponents called it unpredictable. Inside the cage, unpredictability became pressure. He didn't fight in bursts, he fought in waves. Constant forward movement, slicing elbows from strange angles. Cardio that felt almost unnatural. He talked during exchanges. He smiled through damage. He made opponents question themselves. The myth grew with every comeback round, every bloody survival, every opponent who broke before he did. But myths are dangerous. They convince you that what worked yesterday will always work tomorrow. While Tony leaned deeper into chaos, the division sharpened structure. Cleaner boxing, tighter defense, more calculated pacing. Tony believed storms expose weakness. He believed endurance solves everything. But storms can be measured, and chaos, when studied long enough, becomes predictable. The myth protected his identity. It also limited his evolution. Because when you believe you are the storm, you rarely prepare for someone who knows how to time it. And timing was getting better across the division. The fight was scheduled 5 times. 5 separate buildups. 5 waves of anticipation. 5 collapses. First, a torn ligament just days before the event. then a weight cut that sent him to the hospital. Later, circumstances no one could control. Each time the announcement felt final. Each time it ended the same way. Cancelled. The division moved on temporarily. Tony never did. Most contenders would pivot, protect ranking, demand alternatives. Tony stayed locked on one name. He believed destiny tests commitment. He believed patience proves worth. So he trained harder, longer rounds, more grappling exchanges, more invisible wars inside the gym. The body does not distinguish between preparation and performance. Damage accumulates either way. Meanwhile, new contenders rotated through title conversations. Opportunities shifted, momentum redistributed. Tony remained suspended in anticipation. 5 cancellations don't just delay opportunity, they compress urgency. They build pressure with nowhere to release it. Every camp demanded sacrifice. Every delay extended strain. And while he insisted nothing had changed, something had. The division was modernizing. Younger fighters were studying tape, refining defense, improving discipline. Tony was still preparing for one storm, but storms lose power when the landscape around them changes. And the landscape was changing fast. Then the call came. Khabib was out. The world was unstable. Events were collapsing. The division was uncertain. Justin Gaethje stepped in. Different style, different rhythm, different threat entirely. Tony had a choice. He could wait, preserve his contender status, demand the fight he had built his prime around. Instead, he accepted immediately. No hesitation, no recalculation. Activity over patience. Risk over preservation. Gaethje was not a grappling marathon. He was sharp boxing, controlled footwork, explosive counters. The matchup required adjustment. The timeline allowed almost none. Tony entered camp lighter, more focused on speed, less centered on grinding pressure. But years of preparation don't rewrite overnight. He trusted pace again. He trusted durability again. He trusted that chaos eventually breaks structure. It had always worked before. The decision looked fearless. It was also irreversible. He put 12 victories on the line against a problem he hadn't spent years solving. Sometimes courage protects legacy. Sometimes it exposes vulnerability. When the cage door closed, Tony believed resilience would be enough. He was about to discover that resilience has limits, and limits reveal themselves publicly. From the opening exchange, something felt different. Gaethje didn't retreat, he didn't drown, he measured. Every jab snapped Tony's head back. Every counter interrupted rhythm before it could build. Tony advanced like always, smiling, absorbing. But absorption accumulated. Round after round, the damage stacked. Not chaotic, systematic. The pace he once weaponized was being timed. Gaethje stayed disciplined. Defensive wrestling shut down desperation shots. Footwork denied prolonged exchanges. Tony's reactions slowed. His entries became predictable. His rhythm fractured. By the 4th round, the myth was cracking. By the 5th, it was gone. The referee stepped in, the streak ended, but something deeper broke. It wasn't just momentum, it was invincibility. For the first time in years, Tony looked overwhelmed. Not by chaos, by structure. And once structure proves it can solve you, the division takes notes. That night didn't just end a run, it shifted perception permanently. And perception, in elite competition, changes everything. After Gaethje, recovery required evolution. Evolution never fully came. Charles Oliveira submitted him. Beneil Dariush controlled him. Michael Chandler knocked him unconscious. Each loss felt less surprising, more confirming. The aura disappeared quietly. Opponents no longer entered survival mode. They entered with strategy. Tony was still willing. Still dangerous in moments, but moments aren't enough at that level. Speed fades subtly. Timing erodes gradually. Durability weakens without announcement. The fighter who once dictated chaos began reacting instead of initiating. Crowds still cheered, but anticipation shifted to nostalgia. Every walk to the cage carried memory, not menace. The division he once haunted no longer revolved around him. New contenders emerged without referencing his name. Decline in combat sports is rarely dramatic. It stretches, it lingers. It forces fans to watch erosion in real time. Tony didn't disappear overnight. He faded across years. And fading is cruel because hope lingers longer than it should. Tony Ferguson didn't lack talent. He lacked timing. 5 cancellations demanded adaptation. He chose loyalty to inevitability. He built his prime around one unfinished fight. He structured camps around one opponent. He absorbed damage preparing for one collision. When the collision never arrived, there was no backup narrative. He accepted Gaethia out of pride, out of courage, out of refusal to step back. That decision accelerated everything. The sport kept evolving. Precision replaced chaos. Discipline replaced mythology. Tony remained authentic to his identity. But authenticity without adjustment becomes rigidity. He never fought Khabib. And that absence defines his legacy more than any win. Not because he wasn't great, but because greatness without closure creates questions instead of crowns. What if the fight happened? What if timing aligned? Those questions echo louder than any championship introduction. Tony didn't lose everything in one night. He lost it waiting. Waiting for destiny. Waiting for validation. Waiting for a fight that never came. And sometimes in this sport, it isn't a knockout that changes everything. It's one decision, and that's all it takes.